Hello and welcome to a very special Page One Power follow-up video that we are going to be doing for our podcast, or our last webinar rather, Link Building Live, talking about outreach. On that one, we had so many questions on air from our lovely audience that we just ran out of time and could not address all those questions. So today we're going to take some time. I got all the questions, I laid them out onto a slide deck, and we're going to look at those and go through and answer them. So I want to introduce today's panel. My name is Colin Eggleston, your friendly neighborhood marketing events coordinator here at Page One Power. I'm joined today by Devin Boudreau, link building expert here at Page One Power. Devin, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Excellent, man of many words here. We're also joined by first-time panelist here, Taylor Tomita. How are you doing, Taylor?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Thanks so much for joining us here today. So our mailbox is full. We got a lot of great questions, and so we want to kind of get through and address them all on air quickly for everybody here. So I thought we'd just do a question roundtable. So I'll just introduce the question from the audience, and then we'll just go through and answer it the best we can. So the first question here from that webinar here is Sharon. Sharon asks, any advice on outreaching to .gov sites? What do you think, guys?
I think it just comes down to just being super professional when you're outreaching to them and know exactly who you should be outreaching to, and just being very specific about what you want.
Yeah, if you're emailing a really general or more vague gov email like info at blah blah blah.gov, the likelihood that they're going to even know what you're talking about, even when you're very specific in your intent in the email, is pretty high. So finding the most close and specific email to the person that's going to be able to put the link up is definitely the way to go, especially if you can find either that subdomain's contact email for that or the specific person in charge is going to be the best chance you're going to get the link to turn around.
Yeah, with .gov, the thing is that there's not, there's not as many .gov sites out there that we can really outreach to, and so you really kind of have to craft that outreach and really kind of get it right. They really respect kind of a more professional approach, less kind of like laid back and conversational, and kind of more kind of like on the professional business forward type thing. So that's a really good way to kind of approach that. Oh, do you have one more thing, Devin?
Generally, from my experience, also if you're outreaching .gov sites, if your site is any type of like for-profit, the likelihood that they're going to put the link up is usually a lot lower.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have something that's either free or something that really just gives back to the community and really emphasizing that in your outreach is a big plus.
Excellent. So another question from Seth. Do you have a sample template for the Google Sheet? Yes, I got it here. So I have I made a link there from the Google Docs, and I have it as view only. And so I'll share this out on the website once I put the webinar up and the recordings up there. So we'll have that available. And so just make a copy of it, and then you can do with that as you will. Ryan asked, what are the stages of outreach? Well, what do you think, guys?
You have your initial outreach, which is just your first email, kind of laying it all out there, pitching this, this is who I am, this is what I'd like for you to do, let me know if you have questions, let me know if you're going to put the link up or not. Then you got your follow-up, where you're just kind of hitting them back up, asking them if they got your first email. Sometimes when I do my follow-up, I'll mention if they have some broken links on the page or trying to offer some type of additional value to get their attention if my first email didn't. Then you have your third follow-up, and then depending on the site and kind of just on your own discretion whether or not you do a fourth outreach. I generally stick with 3 outreaches most of the time, but if it's a really good site and I really want the link, then I'll do 4 outreaches. So the third and fourth one are just kind of like final follow-ups, making sure that they got your email, let them email you back, basically.
Nice. Taylor, anything to add on that?
No, I mean, my process is about the same, I guess. The only thing I would add is if you've done like 3 or 4 emails and you haven't heard back, but you're really wanting to get the link, try to find someone else's email on the site to see maybe if they could help you out or they're checking their email. That's something I've had success with. So.
Yeah, that's such a good piece of advice. Because one, you may find an email on the site that looks good, but there could be two or three other ones on there that might even be a better opportunity. So definitely don't give up after that first one.
You can also use Twitter. I'll use that a lot if I'm not getting a response back and they have someone that's in charge. I can just tweet them and be like, hey, didn't hear back from you. And then often I usually get a response that way if I haven't heard back from email, if I can actually find the right Twitter to get a hold of.
Excellent. All right, so Larry asks, does such a long expectation of follow-up run the risk of the content becoming less relevant? So I'll just kind of pitch in here real quick is that a lot of our content that we pitch, that we talk about is pretty much evergreen. That's our intention from the jump. But I don't know. There's definitely risks involved. What do you guys think?
I think if you're pitching a piece of content that's very, I guess like seasonal or very like then and now where it might not be relevant in the future, link building is important to it, but at the same time you might want to look a little more into like paid social posts and things like that, to where if it's very time sensitive, that might have a little more bang for your buck versus having links pointing to it that aren't really going to have as much value in a long-term thing. So
yeah, I can definitely think of this like if you're doing like a newsjacking campaign where like the client or like the CEO of the client's company or someone higher up in the client's company is maybe publicly visible, connected to a news story, hopefully a positive news story, then yeah, you definitely run that risk of the content being less, that, if that's the content, being less relevant. Because if you're trying to get like a link in someone's news article or a blog that they wrote about your client or an executive, and you're contacting them like a month or two after the article's been written, they're probably not going to really want to go back and change that. So Michael has a longer question here. So Michael basically asks, they go quantity over quality when it comes to kind of satisfying the client demands. We can definitely understand that situation. However, this requires the use of templates with little customization. What are your thoughts on best practices in this case? Thanks. So that's a doozy.
if you're going to, personally, I'm a fan of templates, but making them very customized and specific to the site that you're outreaching to. I think if you have a kind of standard template that covers all of the main points and what makes a good outreach, I think that'll save you a lot of time in the long run. But if you're blasting out a ton of templates with little customization, yeah, you're not going to get a ton of links. To where you should be tailoring those templates more to the sites you're outreaching, really driving home the value of why they should be adding your link to the page and how it's going to benefit them by doing so and their users. And honestly, if you do that, you should get more links. I don't want to say it always works for me, but more often than not it does. So.
Taylor, any thoughts on?
No, I definitely agree with Devin. I think also just adding kind of like what you had mentioned earlier, Colin, with just if you're pressed on, the whole quantity over quality and you're doing templates, maybe try focusing more on finding more sites and better sites that are going to be more likely to link to you. But just having the quantity side of your outreach pool as well.
Yeah, it's such a tough balance to strike, because clients, you want to do the best for all of your clients, and there's going to be a time where you're going to have to make some decisions, kind of efficiency-wise. And I think you said it perfectly, Taylor, is that, finding better sites. If your outreach numbers, if your conversions if you're finding it too low, then you might want to spend a little bit more time and maybe finding better sites, so you don't have to waste time sending lots of outreach emails to sites that might not get back to you. David writes, do you write content to go on their website and link back to your website, or do you write content for your website and get them to link to it? So I know we do a little bit of both here on page one. What have you guys seen?
Kind of on a client-by-client basis, what I've noticed, honestly. I mean, we've had clients come through where they want us to write the content for their site and then build links to that. And then we've had them come through where they already have their content written and they just want us to build links to the content they already have. So, I mean, it kind of just varies from project to project.
All right. So Kelly, tuned in late. Will there be a copy of the webinar available? Absolutely. It's actually already up and live on our site and on our YouTube channel, so check that out. Search YouTube for Page One Power, and you'll find us there. John says, Matt Cutt says guest posting is dead. Any comments?
It's not. I don't know. I think it's just kind of semantics as far as what maybe he was getting at, but guest posting definitely still is good. You just might have to be better at how you go about including links in your guest posts and making sure they're relevant, informational, and whatnot, but it's definitely still good, and I wouldn't write it off.
Well put. I would just say, too, Matt Cutts, he had, it was at a time, that was in 2014, that was at a time where a lot of the quote-unquote guest posts that we saw were just, auto-generated, spun articles that were basically just complete rubbish, and then they were kind of spammed across a lot of different domains and maybe some sort of guest blogging network that's just really shady anyway, and not with any kind of authorial integrity or publishing integrity. And so as far as some of the best examples of guest posting I've seen, both here and around the web, is when an article is, when a professional writer is writing for a relevant domain, be it like a news or health and wellness blog, and in that article, there is an opportunity to link to basically an organically justified link to a relevant piece of content that maybe our client has or maybe someone else has, because that's the thing is like a lot of really good, any good article out there will have tons of links in it, not just one or two links to a specific client or anything like that. So so organically justified, it serves the reader, and it's really good content that's actually going to help the reader kind of understand and kind of maybe enjoy the article better. So that type of guest posting, I think, is alive and well, and I hope the other type of guest posting is dead. Right, that spun content and on the blog networks and stuff like that. That stuff, we don't need that. That's just spamming up the internet. And that's my that's my tirade on that. So there we go. But I appreciate it because you know what? Honestly, John, I'm really glad you asked that because we see that question definitely comes up a lot, and a lot of people are asking about that. And I think it's a really important conversation to have. The conversation's not over. Right, and so I think it's something that's ongoing, and it's kind of transforming through the years. So Sally asks, are you just focusing on writing for another site as a link building tactic? What if you're a brand and you would like them to link to you? So pretty good, kind of in your guys' wheelhouse for sure. What do you think?
If you're a brand that is well known or just has some type of influence in the industry or your niche or in the business world at some level, you can literally just search out and see if people are talking about your brand. We call those like fresh mentions or brand mentions, and just contact those sites that are already mentioning you and be like, hey, you talked about us here. Could you actually link back to our site? We really appreciate it. And that is it's one of my favorite go-to link building strategies for brands.
Yeah, I think that when we have been fortunate enough to work for a brand that is well known or kind of a household name, finding those organic mentions and unlinked organic mentions is a real treat, because usually we can really kind of get a lot of like a high volume and a high rate of return on those links, as opposed to a brand that's a little more niche or kind of lesser known. Shawn asks, I'm sure it happens, say someone places a link but did not respond to the outreach. How do you know if and when that happens?
We use I mean, there's a couple things you can do. We use BuzzStream here, and we can actually go back and do link monitoring, that's what they call it, and check to see if we've gotten any new backlinks that way. Instead of going and actually following up on every email, you can just check that, and it'll crawl and see if you have any new links obtained. On Majestic, you can go and look at the new links required for your website on a little tab they have on there. That's pretty helpful. And honestly, just checking manually I think is important, just to kind of see what's coming through. It's good to always be looking at that stuff. You can see potentially good links you're getting. You can see if you're getting bad websites linking to you and try to resolve that if that's happening.
Yeah, I definitely also agree with just doing it manually. Obviously, if you have the tools to do it, do them. But at the end of the day, manually is going to give you the actual answer. I think the easiest way that I normally do it is if I'm doing follow-up, I'm going to check the website anyway to see if they put the link up, because I don't want to reach out and say, hey, did you do that? If they already did, like, it's just kind of lazy. So
Exactly.
if you're doing follow-up, just check it real quick, and if they didn't put it up, send them an email.
Yeah, that's such a great best practice, because I can't, I can't even imagine, I can't even count the number of times that like we've gone to outreach and we haven't heard anything. Sometimes we'll email a site and they will never get back to us, never respond to any email, but the link appears. And so it's definitely important to kind of check before sending any follow-up. Okay, so Marshay says, we're currently doing a scholarship link building campaign and about 1% has agreed. Do you have any suggestions?
First thing I would ask is, when are you emailing these schools? I'm assuming it's schools that you're pitching the scholarship to, because during the summer months, your response rate was going to be significantly lower because a lot of the staff aren't in school. I would also look at how many sites you're finding and pitching the scholarship to. I think with scholarship link building, it is highly focused on numbers. The more sites that you find for those, clearly going to give you more links. I'd also look at the context of the scholarship and what are the sites you're pitching it to. Is it more general scholarship? Is it kind of vague, or is it very specific to the school or to the students? And what's the value that they're getting out of the scholarship? I've seen scholarship campaigns in the past where the scholarship was kind of just general, like, here's X amount of dollars to help pay for books. And I've seen other ones where it was the scholarship they were getting was very focused to a specific degree program, and there was way more value in that for students, and a lot more people were more willing to link to that one versus the other one. So I think it just kind of goes back to links in general, is like, what value does it give to the site and the user? To the more specific and unique value that you can give, the more conversions you're going to get.
Nice. All right, there we go. Nicely done there. So John asks, are you still finding the links valuable? And I think that's a pretty easy one for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in general, John, to kind of add on to that, is that not all links are necessarily created equal, and so there's a lot of factors that go into each one. But as a whole, we definitely support links and organic link building, and we definitely have found that that has been very valuable to our clients as well. Ryan asks, do you approach as a writer even when you're going on behalf of your client who will be writing?
I mean, yeah, but I think more than anything, I look at it, I go with the approach of being a link builder. Like, I mean, we don't always write the content like in the previous question. Sometimes the client writes it, sometimes we write it. But in the end, you're approaching them hoping to get links. To where I think looking at from more of the approach of a link builder is kind of how I go about it, to be honest.
That pretty much sums it up. It really is kind of a case-by-case basis, and sometimes clients, and this is totally understandable, this isn't a bad thing, but sometimes clients will want total control over, they'll want editorial control over the content. and sometimes that means they produce it themselves. But usually what happens is that that's how the relationship will start. And then as they kind of see our process and see our talented writers that we have in-house, then they will usually just relinquish control to us and say, okay, you guys do it. You know, we trust you. We got your, you know, it's easier for everybody if you're just writing it instead of us having to kind of wrangle a writer and all that good stuff. So it's kind of a good process there. John asks, can you both speak to how many websites you typically outreach in a campaign? What do you guys think?
I think it just depends on the campaign specifically and like what like niche you're in. There's some niches you'll have to find 3 times as many sites because the conversions are going to be way lower, or maybe those websites aren't being checked as often. I mean, there's a bunch of factors that go into it. So to give like a hard number of, I outreach X amount of sites and I find X amount of sites for a project every month is very, very varied. That sounds bad. Based on the project. I mean, typically I like to find at least 50 a month personally, just because I like getting a lot of links and I like setting myself up for success versus failure, to where if I can find more good sites, outreach those well, the higher chance I'm going to get links and more links, to where that's kind of my number that I fall back on. But again, I've had some clients where I had to find 100 sites that month, and then I've had some where I've only had to find like 30. So I mean, it kind of varies per client and per industry you're in.
Cool. Yeah. Agreed. With the whole 50 number, like that's a good starting point. And also, I guess my advice would be with that 50, try to maybe front load your work into the first like week of the month. Maybe find 30 or 40 sites and hit them up, and then go from there. Like if you get a lot of responses or links, that's awesome. If not, maybe it's time to be finding more or seeing why you're not getting these links. So yeah, definitely probably around the 50 mark.
I think 50 is solid, and it's a little bit different for speaking as kind of on the writer side, outreaching to blogs. It was a little bit less than 50, usually around 25 to 15 to 25, depending if you're, because typically outreaching to blogs as an established writer, you know, you can say, hey, I've been published in these places, yada yada. I've been writing for a long time. I have a degree in writing. You have all this, you have all that, to kind of like back up what you're saying. And then the blogs will be usually better to a higher response rate there. But yeah, easily 50 a month for if you're doing kind of resource link building, if you're trying to get your client listed on a resource page or something like that, and about 20 to 25 a month for kind of if you're looking for blog type sites to outreach to and to maybe share content with. Because like if you wrote a really killer piece of content for your client, and you want other sites to link to that content because you think it'd be relevant, then easily, yeah, 25 a month.
Going further with what Taylor said, like front loading your work is super, super important. I feel it lets you understand if you're going to be getting responses. A lot of times if you are getting responses and people are saying no, you start to have an idea of why they're saying no, and that's something you can bring to the client to try to improve the campaign for further months. And it just kind of gives you a good idea, like from the get-go, how's this project going to be, versus waiting till the 3rd week in the month and starting all of your outreach and then not getting any replies and not really having an idea of like, well, what's going on, versus doing it from the get-go, you setting yourself up for more success versus failure.
Perfect. Ryan asks, I've had success with HARO. Are there similar tools that you use? So just for the audience, HARO stands for Help a Reporter Out. And it's basically kind of like a centralized hub for reporters that need help. Like if they need a quote, like if you're an expert on like dairy, like the dairy industry or like skateboarding or something like that, you can kind of put yourself on HARO and say, hey, if any reporter needs a quote or a information on this type of industry that I'm an expert in, then you can come to me and quote me in your article. right? And so that's pretty common if there's, if as link building, like if a client is an expert in a certain area, like if one of their one of their higher level executives or even someone on the team can be an expert in a certain thing, we can quote them, and quoting that person they usually will cite the business or the site that they work for, and that's a good way to kind of get a solid link there that's super relevant, right? Because you're asking an expert in that industry, and all that. So that having been said about HARO, what other tools do we use? Anything similar? Any other kind of like special tools that we use?
Not that, I mean, at least for my workflow, not that I can really think of, to be honest. I don't, I mean, that's more of like the writing side of things, and I'm more in the research side of stuff, to where I feel bad that I can't speak to this more, but I don't want to just like plug like tools that I use for the sake of plugging the tools.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like tools that we use here at Patron Power, I know we've mentioned them a lot, but we typically use Moz. Moz for for a lot of things, backlink profiles, keywords, keyword suggestions, all that fun stuff. And Majestic, we do really like Ahrefs as well, but we use Majestic, OpenSite Explorer, BuzzStream, of course, BuzzSumo. We love BuzzSumo. Kind of checking there for, especially kind of trending, what's kind of hot right now. So all that good stuff. So, and Google. We use Google a lot. John asks, and how long does the campaign typically last? What do you think?
I mean, it's, again, like it varies. I've worked on some clients for multiple years, and I've worked on some for 3 months. I feel like typically, the 6 months to a year, I feel like it's kind of average time that a lot of our clients will either, I mean, like with SEO, and I feel like it kind of varies like per project, and depending on like what their spend is, what their brand is, like what are their goals of their SEO campaign? Are they looking for like a short-term thing? Are they looking for long-term goals? Are they looking for making sales? Are they looking for just organic traffic increases? Like, it's kind of not an easy answer to just say it's this long.
So. Agreed.
One thing with SEO and link building too is that I think of it this way, is that we're getting to the point in this kind of business, this kind of a business climate that SEO should just be seen as like almost like a utility. It's like when you pay for your power bill, you don't necessarily say, well, hey, I've got enough electricity, let's just shut the power off, we're done, right? You need it to run and to sustain your business, and I think it should just be kind of built into the cost of doing business online if you want to be, competitive. Like, right, you don't need SEO or links if you don't want to be competitive. If you're just fine, if you just have a small mom and pop business, you're doing great business locally, you have a little website and that tells people your hours and your maybe a small menu or something like that, and that's basically it. You got 2 pages on the website. It doesn't rank for hardly anything, maybe except for your name locally. Great. You probably don't necessarily need SEO, because if you're already getting enough business that you're happy, awesome. But if you want to be competitive on the online landscape, if you want to be competitive in rankings and visibility, then SEO should be an essential part. And so as far as the campaign lasting, forever, for as long as you want to be competitive. And that's it for our questions. So thanks so much, everybody. Taylor, Devin, thank you so much for your time today. Any parting thoughts? Anything to kind of words of wisdom to leave us by?
Link building rocks. Always pay attention to your subject line when you're sending your outreach, and always address people in your emails by their name if you have that information available.
Awesome. Taylor?
Yes, agreed. Also, do follow up. You'll probably get a lot more links if you do. So.
Nice. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been another Page One Power webinar type thing, or follow-up video if you really want to get technical there. I am Colin Eggleston. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, link unto others as they would link unto you.